CBS Sports, 247 Sports. Brandon, great friend of the show and a college football reporter this time of year. But we'll get into basketball later. Brandon, good morning.
Morning. What's up, guys?
Hey, Brandon.
You tell us, man, who's going to be the next Arkansas coach?
What's happening?
Nobody asks you that, do they?
A lot of schools want to know who their next coach is going to be, and I think it's very difficult for maybe even a lot of people to realize that it's so early in the process. You're probably not going to really start hearing some hard details on those type of things until probably the last week of November, and then of course that first week of December when things really start rolling. But I mean, I could tell you a few names I've been hearing more frequently.
Please do.
With the job.
Please
Sure.
do.
Alex Golish at South Florida has come up quite a bit in industry circles from speaking to people. James Franklin, who right now is speaking to several people out there related to other jobs. I think he's kind of getting a better feel of what his position will be and what jobs he might end up being the top choice. Also have to consider Eric Morris out there, who's doing a great job at North Texas. He's also receiving quite a bit of attention from Oklahoma State at this time. And then another name that I've heard a little bit more of, and I was actually kind of surprised about, was John Summerall at Tulane. Now, I believe that he's going to end up potentially being the number one guy in the Auburn search, and might even come up a little bit in the searches at LSU and Florida, depending on how those go. But I think he's a name that would probably be coming off the board sooner than, say, LSU and Florida at this point will be trying to fill their jobs and maybe even waiting until January to do so, depending on if they think they can get a Lane Kiffin or someone who's currently, or I should say at that point, currently playing in the college football playoff. But I believe in the end that Auburn, if they don't get in their own way, they should go hire John Summerall. But anyway, so that's where Arkansas stands right now. Those are the names I've been hearing a little bit more with more frequency, but probably nothing too out of the ordinary from what other people have probably been reporting or hearing, but that's just kind of where it stands right now.
You said something a little bit earlier that I'm in full agreement with. It's still so early in the game, despite the fact that we're all talking about it every day. Do you sense this is going to be a mad dash right at the end? Clemson's got to make a call. Florida State's got to make a call. There are more schools out there that are going to fire their coaches, let's be honest. I just wonder if we're not going to see just a 7-day mad dash right at the end of the year, and schools are just naming coaches left and right.
Oh, yeah, you're exactly right, Chuck. That's what I feel. That's what a lot of the agents feel right now. I mean, they're doing a lot of their homework right now, even with coaches who aren't even involved right now, trying to figure things out, trying to play out a lot of hypotheticals, and of course make connections at some of these schools where they've already got some connections. But no, you're exactly right. I will say, at Clemson, I know Dabo. They're not doing well. They're 3-5, and he said what he said after their game this past week against Duke, where he said, "Hey, they could fire me tomorrow." And his athletics director was staying there in the background when he said that. I'm told by sources there on the ground that he's completely safe, that they will not keep getting rid of him at all this year. But there will be staff changes there. They'll be making some staff changes. But that's an interesting thing with Dabo. If there was a big enough job out there or something like that, I wonder if they would try and say, "Hey, Dabo, why don't you come to us, start anew, see if you can win us a championship here." Because his buyout at Clemson, if he were to choose to leave, would only be between $3 to $4 million is what I'm told. But I haven't heard anything like that. I don't believe he wants to leave Clemson. I just know that Dabo's got kind of as great as a coach as he is, he's got very thin skin. So this isn't the first time he said, "Hey, they could fire me," and all that type of stuff.
Yeah,
but,
he seems to be losing his cool, across the board. And these, this just feels like he could use a restart somewhere. It's. I was thinking about this yesterday, where a coach has so much success and you do so much, and everything's working for you, and all of a sudden it's not. And it's got to be just incredibly frustrating to try and figure out how to fix it. And right now it just feels like he can't. And every time I see him in a press conference, Brandon, it's like that's just on display.
Yeah, and I've only talked to him like 4 or 5 times, and I went down there this past spring and sat down with him in his office, and he's just like a lot of these coaches. I always thought that him and Mike Gundy were very much alike in a lot of ways, not just philosophically, but just the way they handle things, even in the public eye. They're kind of stubborn. They're a little bit defiant at times. Sweeney, though, seemingly has been a little bit more thin-skinned, I believe. And I just think that, what was interesting yesterday, though, was saying he thinks he's gone away from his gut and going with his gut, which I don't necessarily believe, because he has been going with his gut. He's been going with, ignoring the transfer portal and not making a lot of staff changes over the years. But I just kind of think that, his best years are behind him. This year was set up for them to win, and now it's their worst year since 1998 or whatever it is.
Hey, Brandon, bringing it back to Arkansas, I want to get your thoughts on this. You look at the rebuild that's in store at Arkansas, and I look at a place like Indiana. I look at a place like Texas Tech. Two very different approaches to a rebuild. One threw $10 million at their football program. The other brought in a roster from a school that lots of people didn't even know had a football program. And Indiana wins and Texas Tech wins, but they've done it in different ways. Is it as simple as saying a school like Arkansas has got to pick away, or is there more to it than that?
Yeah, I think that there's several ways you can be an immediate winner in college football these days. Like you said, with Indiana, they brought in Curt Stignetti. He brought with him about 10 to 11 players from James Madison, where he previously coached, where they were a championship program. And, the thing with Curt Stignetti is he's just an incredible identifier of talent and overlooked talent, and also just talent that it's almost like a Moneyball approach, not to try to simplify it, but he just goes and looks for production, and he goes, I got to fill this amount of production at this spot and this spot and this spot, and then the grand total, the aggregate at the end, ends up being what we want with our offense or our defense. And now what you're seeing with Indiana is that they've been able to go in the transfer portal and not just get group of 5 players who produce, but now
they've got money.
Program guys.
Yeah, now they got money. They didn't have it at the beginning, but they do now.
Yeah, exactly right. And Tech's just rolling in dough and has really helped them get that type of talent. If you're in Arkansas right now, listen, you're not going to be able, unless something happens, you're not going to be able to have that type of money at Texas Tech. And heck, I don't even know, listen, Indiana's got more money right now, and I don't even know if Arkansas can get up to the level of what they're doing right now, but maybe they can. But the problem is for Arkansas is that, I hate to say this, I'm an Arkansas guy, but look at their past 2 hires, right? They hired an offensive line coach from Georgia as their head coach. The previous hire before that was Chad Morris, who, let's face it, they hired him because he was a Gus Malzahn clone that they thought at the time after Gus Malzahn turned them down. And it didn't work out. None of those have worked out in the long run, though. Sam Pittman did a very good job at the beginning. But if those were your last 2 hires, what makes you think at this point you're going to be able to go get a James Franklin or someone like that? But there are really good options out there that are not going to be considered number one at the other big jobs right now, where if you're Arkansas and if you're doing your footwork, your legwork right now, you can get in and go swoop in and get them near the end of November, early December, and they're going to be great hires. And those guys that I've mentioned, Alex Golish, Eric Morris, maybe even a John Summerall, but I think, Summerall's probably going to be up with Auburn. But those 2 guys, Golish and Morris, they bring an approach where they're an incredible identifier of talent like Curt Stignetti. Eric Morris especially, because you guys know he identified Cam Ward. He identified John Mateer. And now he's got a quarterback at North Texas who wasn't even playing high school football that's breaking school records there. And then you got Alex Golish, who's an incredible recruiter and obviously has some ties to the state through his wife. Those two guys are the type of coaches you need to come into Arkansas to give you an immediate influx of talent, maybe potentially from their current schools, but also they're going to be hungry, they're younger, and they're going to bring in guys that come in that I think are going to be able to produce immediately. And then you could build from there, much like in Indiana has, where the very next year, if you're very successful, you can attract a better lane of talent. I think Arkansas is putting together a plan to be competitive financially with their resources. They just need to make sure you go zero in on one or two guys, make it very clear that they're the guys, and that we want you here when your season ends. I think that's been the clearest approach, clear-headed approach I've seen from some of these schools is we're going to try and put together a plan here in the next couple of weeks. We know who our top guy is going to be, and we're going to do everything in our power to go get them immediately and quickly. And not to be too long-winded, but Virginia Tech guys, they've been trying to get someone to come on campus there and be their head coach as early as the first of this month in November. And they haven't been able to do so because they've been so aggressive in trying to get someone to come there.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
It's very fascinating, the approaches out there, but Arkansas can go out and go get one of those two great coaches I just mentioned, and that's kind of exactly what Arkansas needs, an identifier of talent. Someone's going to bring in some really good guys immediately from their team, potentially, and then build from there. You just got to make sure you have the right approach with some of these guys.
What's crazy to me is the number of jobs that are open so early in the season, which drives conversation, but not much can really happen for another 3 weeks or a month. Brandon, we're out of time, but can you go rapid fire because I got a few things I want to ask you. So, shortest answer possible. Sure. Mike Norvell, is he the coach at Florida State next year?
Yes.
Gus Malzahn, does he get in the mix for a head coaching job anywhere?
No.
Any way you see Bobby Petrino as the head coach at Arkansas next year?
Unless Arkansas just whiffs on 4 candidates.
So it's possible, but not likely, is what you're saying.
No, I give it 4%.
Okay. All right, good stuff. Thank you for hopping on with us, as always. Brandon Marcello, CBS Sports, 24/7 Sports. We'll do it again soon. Keep burning that cell phone up, buddy.
All right, see you guys.
Thank you, Brandon.
It's this right now for guys like him. It's just constantly on the phone.
Yeah.